Jeff Passan back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Jeff?
Just coming in soft these days. Nothing, nothing light here.
So walk me through what you know about the Major League Baseball, I guess, netting policy is in the stadium, Jeff.
Well, two years ago, Major League Baseball recommended that every team out there extend the netting to the inside edge of the dugouts. And that was a perfectly wonderful half measure to take, something that honestly, compared to what has been done around the world in Japan for well over a decade now, has been done in minor league parks, is embarrassingly soft. Four, I believe, teams that first year extended the netting all the way to the far end of the dugout, which protects a whole lot more people from these screaming foul balls that fly into stands, like the one yesterday that hurt the child at Yankee Stadium, like ones that have injured thousands, literally thousands of people every year going back for decades now. And so the fact that this policy does not include at least a mandate to have netting all the way to the end of the dugout, if not all the way down the line, is just it's reprehensible and it's morally wrong. And that, to me, is the great issue here, that Major League Baseball is more concerned about everything other than the safety of its patrons.
Well, what is the everything then? Why isn't it happening?
They're more concerned about restaurants that are going to be on the concourses. They're more concerned about the amenities that are in the ballpark. They're more concerned about the between innings games. I mean, when I say everything, Rich, I mean literally everything. And the reason behind this is something called the baseball rule. It's essentially a doctrine that courts have upheld throughout the years, that fans are liable for what happens to them at a baseball game. And while I understand the notion behind that there's an assumption of risk when you walk into a stadium, at the same time, if there is something that the teams can do to mitigate, if not completely erase, that risk from the people who are paying good money to go and watch these games, I don't understand what's preventing them from doing that. That to me is the big question here. What do you have to lose? It's the same question that hockey asked after Brittany Cecil died. And this is a while ago. I think it was 2002 when a puck flew into the stands and killed a child. And it's almost like baseball is waiting for that moment to happen in order to spur it to action to do what should have been done. Because you ask any hockey fan these days, you get used to the netting. It becomes part of the experience. You may not like it, but you come to terms with it. And that's where I think most baseball fans are these days. You come to terms with this, and the trade-off for the additional safety that's in place, to me, is such a significantly more valuable thing than whatever you might lose from having a net there.
Jeff Passan of Yahoo Sports joining me here, and I think you hit this in your column. I said this earlier in the show, that for any fan out there that baseball thinks exists, that says, you know what, I've got these seats, my season seats have been on the first base line, my family passing it down for all these years, or they like sitting first, third base line, that I don't want a netting. I don't want that visual impediment. That those fans, if given an opportunity to sit 2 or 3 rows behind home plate in the best seats in the house, which have always been covered by netting, would they turn that down because they have to see through netting? I mean, none of that makes sense to me, Jeff. Of course they wouldn't turn those seats down.
I mean, you put it well. The seats that are considered most desirable, not for everybody, but we're all going to have our own preferences. But the seats that are considered most desirable in a baseball stadium are covered by nets. And you know what? I've sat behind home plate before. I don't see the netting. Your eyes adjust so that it literally is like you're watching the game without anything in front of you. The human brain is a wonderful thing, and it tunes out the things that you don't want to focus on. And if you don't want to focus on the net, if you want to focus on the game, you will focus on the game and the players and the ball and everything that comes with a baseball game. The one argument to me in favor of not putting up netting is that it takes away from the experience of catching a foul ball. You know what, though? Balls can be tossed into stands by players. Balls can be put through special areas in the netting if teams want to do that. You can make the experience, if not as good, then certainly in that same neighborhood. And the ability for parents to take their children down into that area and get closer to the field and really grow to love baseball the way that I think you especially can when you can smell the grass and you get that close to the game and see the speed and the excitement. To me, the trade-off there is enormous. And anybody who wants a ball, you know what? Go to Dick's and buy one.
I'm with you, Jeff Passan of Yahoo Sports here. But it's not as if no Major League Baseball teams haven't expanded the netting. There's about 10 that have. Are there any metrics from the fan experience there that could be passed along to the other 20 teams that appear to be less inclined to basically say fans haven't said a boo or a peep about it?
Let's put it this way. If there was enough of an outcry or a backlash against the netting, they would have been taken down in some of these places. I don't think this is like a Pandora's box where once you open it, you can't close it again. And shockingly, Rich, none of those 10 teams have taken the netting down. Anecdotally, and this is just based on Twitter, so I understand the sample of people certainly is biased. But the vast majority who I either talked with or who sent me messages last night said, I sit behind the netting and I don't notice the difference at all. There were a couple people who were still saying, I don't like the idea of it. One guy said, I've had season tickets. If they put netting up, I'm not going to watch baseball again. He's so full of crap. I mean, come on. Are you really telling me that if you love a game and love the experience, you're going to let something get in the way of it when that something is so negligible? Of course you're not. And you know what? The teams that kowtow to these tough guys saying, I'm going to cancel fine, cancel your season tickets. Somebody else will get good seats and appreciate them more than you do, and they deserve them more than you do anyway.
Well, I mean, and you know, phone lines are lit on this show today about this subject, Jeff, and that's kind of, you know, typical in a way that, you know, if we're on this show sitting here saying who's going to win the NFC West, NFC East, who do you think is the best team in the AFC, and I give an opinion, phone lines are going to light about my team, this team, that team. The only way the phone lines light for baseball when we're talking about pennant races that are heated up or anything like that is when something like this happens. I'm being honest with you. This is my experience, my metric. Or when Odor clocks Batista or Chase Utley slides late into second base in a playoff game like that.
Rich, are you saying regular season baseball is irrelevant?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm as diehard as it comes.
No, you are saying that though, and you're right. You're 100% right. This is like the existential crisis I have between April and October. How do I write about something that's interesting when people don't care about a sport except for what their team's doing? No, you're totally right. But these, I mean, the fact that baseball's most exciting moments come during brawls and when children are getting injured, it does not indicate a great level of health for the sport. And trust me, that's something that I think Major League Baseball teams are grappling with right now. And the fact that they're not using this as something to say, we care about you fans, we want your experience to be better, I think shows a deep ignorance on behalf of the 20 teams that haven't done something to this point.
So then in the last minute I have with you, Jeff Passan of Yahoo, who do you think is going to win the World Series? Who's in it and who wins it based on what we're sitting here on the back half of September here? What do you think?
Boy, I really hate predictions because I suck at them. But if
we all do, don't worry.
But we all do. I really like the Washington Nationals. And a month ago, before the Dodgers just started folding like they have, I wouldn't have said this. But Scherzer, Strasburg, Gio Gonzalez at the top of the rotation is great. Their bullpen has been solidified with the moves Mike Rizzo made. If Bryce Harper comes back and is even 80% Bryce Harper, I think the Nationals are going to be a really hard team to beat. And in the American League, I think it's going to be Indians-Astros, and it's going to be a whale of a series. I'm not picking against the Indians right now, though. There's a ton of firepower there. Their bullpen is fantastic. And if I'm picking a World Series champ today, maybe it's the fact that I grew up in Cleveland. Maybe it's the fact that I want to see a team that's taken 69 years to do this. But I think the Indians right now are the favorites.
Jeff, great chat. Let's chat again soon. Thanks for calling.
Pleasure's mine, Rich. Thanks for having me, man.
That's Jeff Passan of Yahoo Sports. Very passionate, as you can hear, at Jeff Passan, Passan on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that video, be sure to download our app. Don't have any memory on your phone? Let's start to delete some of those slow-mo videos you have. And you know which ones I'm talking about.